in the medieval period, what the Roman Catholic theologians do is that they take some ideas that are kind of around there in the ancient world, particularly from the Stoics, this idea of a natural law, sort of a law that is above governments and not necessarily created by human beings. And they really develop it in a fine philosophical way and really make completely standard during the Middle Ages the idea that in actual fact there are moral principles that are above the state. And so early Christianity and medieval Christianity suddenly makes totalitarianism absolutely impossible in a way that it wasn't really impossible in the Roman Empire, because it essentially says that there are limits to what rulers can do, and those limits are contained in the natural law, the law of God, and even there's an earthly institution that can hold a ruler accountable, and that is the church. That is a massive change in politics in history. And then when you go to the Reformation period, the Protestant Christians took some of the ideas, again, of medieval Catholic Christians on the notion of legitimate political rule by the consent of people who are ruled, and notions that individuals have individual rights. These were things developed by Catholics, and the Protestants emphasized these things even more, particularly the Puritan Protestants, who had a very heavy emphasis on the notion that government is only legitimate if it has the consent of the subjects. And they base that to a large extent actually on their reading of the Bible and their reading of the New Testament and the way that they believed the church was organized, which is essentially congregations electing their own pastors. And this Puritan tradition had a tremendous impact on the first sort of great figure of modern liberal democracy, John Locke. John Locke writes his 2 treatises of government, where he bases his ideas of property rights and his ideas of government by consent on the idea that we are created in the image of God and we're God's property. And so all of this is a massive revolution compared to how people in the ancient world tended to think. In the ancient world, justice was often just used as a synonym for power. And the classic example of that is the Melian dialogue in 416 BC, where the Athenians basically say to the island of Melos, join us or we'll absolutely destroy you. And the Melians say, well, what about justice? And the Athenians say to the Melians, this is what justice is, that the strong will do what they can and the weak will suffer what they must. That was a very commonly accepted understanding of justice in the ancient world. The reason it becomes a minority view of justice and nowadays is seen as the very opposite of justice is because of the Christian influence. And of course, Tom Holland writes a lot about this sort of thing in his book Dominion. But the fact that we have justifications for democracy today that say all people are equal, the fact that we believe for the most part that utopian projects will only result in destruction is because humans are intrinsically flawed. These are very much, I would say, gifts actually of Christianity throughout the ages.